Yeah, I trust my screen is visible to everyone.
Yeah, we can see that.
Great. The entire session is going to be not just about Mumbai Collective. It is. I'll also look in. I'll also tell you folks about what the genesis of Bee Forest is, where our motivations come from, and the philosophy we are trying to follow. So before that, I want to introduce, tell you folks a little bit more about Shaurya and myself and how we came about to become full-time farmers. Somewhere around 2009, Shaurya and I were part of a group of 8 individuals who started one of the first algo trading companies in the country. We went on to become, over the span of the next 9 years, we went on to become one of the largest as well. By 2017, we were doing close to $1 billion a day in turnover in India. So business was really good. So farming was there as a hobby, but it was never really a full-time consideration until a social interaction that where we realized the enormous amount of volatility that existed in the perishables at that point. It was very common for vegetables to swing from, let's say, 50 paisa a kilo to 50 rupees a kilo. And being high frequency traders, we were really happy about volatility. But what beat us, what we could not comprehend was the perception that farming as a profession was unviable. Until that point, I had a farm, like Vivek mentioned, I was a hobby farmer. But it never really occupied my mind space. Yes, I was interested in sustainability, but it was restricted to probably going to a responsible hotel while traveling or interacting with people who are doing sustainable agriculture and so on. But at that point, Shaurya and I sort of started discussing this, and we thought we'll take a closer look at how something that is so essential to human existence is absolutely irreplaceable. It doesn't have a substitute. How can growing food be an unviable profession? And that sort of proved to be a rabbit hole for us, and we went on from one learning to another before we realized we were ready to take the plunge. Like they say, nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. Like most of us, this is one of the most common aspirations of people we meet in across all cities, not just in Bombay, but across all cities, that most of us want this option of wanting to either work from a farm, living on a farm. Farm can be replaced by the hill sometimes, but there is this aspiration to sort of be in a more natural surrounding. And like most people who have this aspiration, we were also postponing it for later. One of the big reasons, and the reasons why we were postponing really were pretty common as well. The number one reason was we felt the need to make more money. We also felt the need to sort of create our own house, build our own house. The traditional mindset that one has when one walks into a profession. Of course, there was also secondary thoughts were how would we access healthcare and education, because we were in that age group where we had little kids and we were thinking about their education in the times to come. So 9 years into this process of running a company and be doing a good job at it, we sort of reached that space where we started discussing what next, and this seemed like a good enough problem to solve. So we thought, we've always been talking about doing something more fundamental than algorithmic trading, something that has a very material nature to it. And why don't we look at this space? Why don't we look into farming and try to optimize it? That's when we decided to take the plunge. Our plan was really simple. I had a small farm in Hyderabad, and we thought, why don't we move there? We've always dreamt of working from a farm. Why don't we move there, try setting it up along sustainable guidelines, reach viability, and showcase as a prototype how it is done. And that's how we started. And because these were the showstoppers for the process, we started discussing about how to make these happen. We realized that these were actually much higher in the hierarchy of needs. They come along after the fundamentals have been secured. And what we realized that at a rural landscape level, even the fundamentals have not been secured yet, which is basically the food, water, and power security. So we went, although we started trying to solve the healthcare, housing, and those kind of issues, we ended up thinking about, we realized unless we solve this food security, water security, and power security, we'll never be able to solve the higher requirements. So that was the genesis of thinking about, that's when this thought process started about how do we create these sustainable landscapes where one doesn't have to worry about where do I get my food from, where do I get my water from, and is power going to come today. So we started thinking about how do we guarantee these things, and our first impressions, our imagination of a farm rather, was something like this. We would always have access to fresh food because we're growing it. And being a farm, I'm sure there is abundant water bodies all around. We will live the slow life because we'd been working 12, 13 hours a day for 10 years straight. So we thought slow life is something that we have to do here. Get up whenever you want, tend to the farm when you want, and so on. And of course, we thought we'll end our evenings with a bonfire and a beer. Yes, there was the aspiration for a 4-hour work week as well. Because, I mean, like I said, we'd been working 12 hours a day. Um, what it turned out to be is something like this. When we started growing food, we realized that because we wanted to be economically viable as well, we were mostly growing to sell. And very, very little of it was actually tuned towards catering to our daily requirements of food. Abundant water bodies is a myth. Even adequate water resources was a myth because we were too exposed to how the landscape was being used by neighbors, other villagers, other stakeholders, and so on. As an example of this, we saw, I mean, my farm never had a water problem for almost 10 years before my neighbor decided to do 3 seasons of rice. And that's it, within 6 months, all our 3 borewells were gone. That's how fragile and vulnerable we were. Slow life, it is slow. I won't deny it. In the sense that deadlines are very rarely met. People, on most occasions, when they say I'll come by evening, would be maybe 3 days later or 4 days later. There's no guarantee. But it's not an easy life as we thought it would be. And what we realized also was bonfire and beer was something we really do once in a while. It's not an everyday affair. Even if we had access to the firewood, we never really lit it. 4-hour work week, no. I mean, it was pretty much actually as a at the farm we realized it's never really a holiday. While you're not always working, you're never really on a vacation. But the important thing was we had the option of working from home, and working from home actually took a very different character of its own because it wasn't restricted to sitting at a desk. Sometimes we would sit in the middle of the carrot farm, sometimes next to the well, sometimes on the veranda, and so on. So these things sort of had a different character itself, and it still seemed worthwhile that we were there. But what the deal breaker was the hole that it burnt in the pocket. We spent a lot of money trying to make it work. We tried different techniques and we interacted with advanced technology experts about in the field of agriculture, hydroponics, aeroponics. We've talked to all of them. What we realized was no matter what we did, we could see that it was not a foolproof, wholesome solution, and we could see where, at what point in time, we would end up losing money there. So what we started talking to people who were actually already running farms full time, and we realized that there were enough number of folks who were already facing this problem. They were burning money every year, and in fact, we realized after talking to close to 100 odd people in and around us in Hyderabad and around Hyderabad that the average return that they were doing was around -9%. Now, this was the average ROI of farming. So clearly, something was wrong here. The problem was not with how much information we had or the techniques we were following. It was something more systemic. That's what we felt. So that's when this was a line I read somewhere, and it sort of became it was very insightful that you can't solve a problem using the same methods you used to create it in the first place. So this dependence on technology, the ability to think that you can control nature, you can mold nature to what you want, bypass the rules by which the natural forces work, that itself is, we believe, the root cause of all the problems we're facing today. And that's when our mindset sort of changed, and we started looking at how natural a farm can we create. Um, uh, and we started questioning everything. We knew we had to reimagine everything, right? So when the moment you start thinking how natural can a farm get, you start questioning if, do you ever find the same kind of crop growing for acres together in nature? In fact, do you even find, even if it's mixed, do you even find annuals in this ratio? You'll never see, if you look at 100 acres of forest, you'll never find 90 acres of it populated with annual crops. It just does not happen in nature that way. So there must be a reason for it. That's that we started looking a bit deeper into it, and we started realizing how contradictory our approach had become. Approach of conventional farming had become to the principles of nature itself. But at the same time, what we started wondering is, I mean, nature has a lot at its disposal, right? You have a lot of geographic features, you have lakes, you have wind patterns, all of this at work on a landscape level. On a farm, when you're talking about 5-10 acres, how can you really engineer all of this? You can't really have a lake, for example, on a small farm. So that's when this whole germ of an idea of a collective came up, where we thought, why don't we buy a large landscape? And since we can't do it alone, why don't we put together a set of people who are interested in solving this problem? We had spoken to enough number of people already. We know that they were also looking to do something, and we proposed this as a platform. And before we knew it, we were close to 20-25 people who we were a collective of 25 people looking to create something. So when I say reimagine the way we've been doing things, we went back to the mood board and we said, you know what, chuck everything out of the window, whatever we've learned till now, and start from the basics. What did we think a farm was like? Can we get there? So one thing, this is how our mood board started to look like, where we thought, a farm life needs to be all about the outdoors, where it's an inherent part of your life. There are abundant forests all around you. Maybe not natural forests, but at least a mix of different kinds of trees, and the diversity in species that you see in a forest. Forest therapy was something we wanted to create as a added benefit of this process. Um, Small pleasures in life, you need to have the time to do it. Read a book, maybe have some coffee, sit and contemplate. These were parts of our mood board. Bird watching again. So bird watching again, let me just add a few lines here. We were really keen on this. Came onto the mood board because we felt that bird watching is not just about searching for some birds. It's more about understanding the different natural indicators. When you're trying to track birds, you suddenly learn a lot more about how they behave, which birds are found in the canopy, which birds you'll find on the surface, at ground level, which ones near the water. So you start understanding habitat and the natural indicators a lot better without even realizing it. Of course, the water body, that's where it all started. So we knew we wanted to have a lot of water bodies, and natural water bodies, not like not like how you see a man-made pond with that geo fabric, and you fill it with a borewell. We didn't want that. We wanted to create a lake that naturally works, and of course, farming had to be a part of it. So now, because the collective was ready to go ahead, we went ahead and implemented our first collective, which was in Coorg. And 22 months later, we realized we had created a forest and not really a farm. And the picture you see here is actually of our Coorg collective. It is a coffee estate, but what you can clearly see here is coffee is just one of the layers of the collective, of the vegetation. Along with coffee, you see there is an undergrowth, there are bushes, there are trees, there are creepers, everything growing there. Yes, we can get into the yield debates and all of that, but what we can tell you for sure is, in the last 12 months, we've probably not spent even 1/10 or 1/20th the amount our neighbor would have spent on maintaining his farm. But I mean, we are pretty much harvesting things. We are not really going into adding manure or pesticides, worrying about some pests and stuff like that. And that natural system has kicked in there. Now, this is when we realize that this is so much more closer to nature. The forces are working as they are supposed to. And the fact that there is so much diversity it's creating so much deterrent. Like there might be one or two coffee plants that are affected by a leaf borer, but it doesn't spread to the rest of the estate. And there are so many hindrances for it to do that. So that's the whole idea behind our approach. Now, let's take a quick look at what we have in store for the Mumbai Collective. Um, One thing when we started searching, so first of all, we received a lot of requests from Bombay, Pune, asking if we were doing something like this. Every time we were covered in the press or something like that, so whoever read it were used from different parts of the country. Bombay, Pune were one of the more popular choices. A lot of people reached out to us and asked us if we wanted to do something here. So once we got a certain critical mass of requests, we started exploring this. And we were pretty certain that we wanted to be somewhere within 2 hours of the city because we wanted people to participate as well. We didn't want this to be something that, we didn't want it to end up being a simple investment in land that you buy and forget and sell someday. We wanted people to be participative, and we thought that would be the agent of change. So 2 hours was really important. We didn't really care about what kind of soil was there as long as there was soil. We didn't care about distance from the highway and all as long as there was an access road. And yeah, I mean, that's where we started. And the property we eventually came across was sort of ticked all the check boxes. And it had one extra thing. It had a waterfront. And that sort of made it very easy for us to make that decision. Now, once we zeroed this in, we started looking at what's around us because we are expecting people to participate. Maybe even some folks might actually end up living here also, which typically happens in our collectives. We saw what all is around, and we were quite surprised to find Starbucks, McDonald's, and a couple of other amenities in near touching distance. But more importantly, healthcare and education, the two of the four blockers that we had in mind were sorted because there were good hospitals, there were good schools in the vicinity as well. Now, if you look at the landscape itself, remember I told you about the waterfront, and the best part of this landscape was that there was actually this waterfront, and then there was another small little monsoon stream that was coming in. And this is not a geographically accurate boundary of the land itself because we are still in the process of acquisition here. But broadly speaking, this is the area we are interested in. And the waterfront makes it so much more better, not just because it's a great view, because of the potential it creates for the land in terms of the different microclimates it creates, the ability for us to move from plants that are extremely dryland varieties to very water dependent varieties, so on. So we have this entire it opens a completely new story. And that's why we were so excited about this. And we made the decision to go ahead. We put a shout out that most of you would have seen at some point, and that's how we are all talking here. Now, what's the plan for the place, right? What's the specifically looking at this place? One thing we realized, we were actually surprised that this place receives 2,500 millimeters of annual rainfall. That's as much as Chikmagalur, where we have another collective as well. We didn't know that. We knew Maharashtra gets a lot of rain, but we didn't realize that it gets this much rain. But at the same time, what we also see is most of the farmers here are sustenance farmers. We're pretty much depending on monsoon. So what we want to do is really revive the ecology first from all the damage that has happened from intensive farming over years. We don't know if they use pesticides and fertilizers in these areas. We haven't gone into that level of detail. But if they have, we have to revive the landscape from that. restore the local fauna, flora, bring back the native species, and focus the growing around what can grow and what is local to this place, and completely reimagine how communities work. When I say reimagine how a community works, is typically when people think about farming, they always think of participating in a farming collective. It's confused with a farm plot project. And we didn't want to be that. We wanted to see what else can be done on a landscape. Forget the fact that everyone has to have a land on its a plot for themselves and all of that. How would we plan this landscape if the product brief was one landscape, one farm, and 60 families? How would we do it? That's how we went about it. Um, of course, these are some visuals from the actual site itself. This is also something we very closely believe, that we don't like portraying images from some far off lands, and which we often see in these farm plot project brochures. That's something we totally detest, and we like to keep it real. We don't mind it looking like a dry landscape, but it has to be what is. This one really caught our attention because it's sort of metaphorical of, it's the flame of the forest tree. It's like a red light. It's asking us to stop, take it all in, breathe. And this is a forest therapy that we are talking about. Again, as you can see, we have always been influenced by poetry and epithets from here and there. So while we were walking here, there were a lot of trails. This whole place has almost at least 7 to 10 kilometers of trails already there, being used by the local villagers and stuff like that. I think that's a great land. That's one characteristic we'd like to retain. The presence of trails and walkability from one part to the other. And now here, there are two ways to do this collective, really. One we had the obvious choice of having a farm plot project, and the other way was to think of it as a single collective where the entire landscape starts behaving as one. Now, what we want to do is move the farm, which looks like this today, to completely revive and restore it and make it behave like a forest system itself. And we believe that that sort of will define this landscape and will be that agent of change where all the neighboring area, that village, the people around it, this is the behavior we typically see. We set up the prototype, and then the effect starts. Once it's been established as a concept, the neighbors start adopting it. And that's the agent of change we want to be. So yeah, and this is an open call to all of you to share it with your friends. Let's get to those 60 members and grow a forest together. Who is it for, though? We are extremely selective about who we allow into the collective and how we create the community. Who is it for? If you are really looking for a break from the endless traffic, the uncertainty about water availability. Now, this is something I never really understood when I was living in Mumbai. The monsoons are always like, they seem never ending. It's always raining, but the 9 months later, when you're in the middle of summer, there's always this water problem that comes back as well. Now, that's something that clearly talks about unsustainable management of water. And if you want to break from that, this place really will teach you. It's probably a gateway to move towards a more sustainable life. And most importantly, we're looking for those who are thinking about moving on from being a consistent consumer to start being a producer as well. What do you get by being a part of Bee Forest? One, of course, you get to grow and consume fresh produce. It's a very involved life. When we say involved life, we are talking about sort of being there as a person in mind, body, and soul. You're involved in what you're doing. It brings about that change in you if you participate. This is a proven fact that your mind actually works better when you are in a natural surrounding. So we want to help make that happen. It will make outdoors and nature a part of your life, part of your family also, not just like this occasional vacation that you go to, but it's a lot more ingrained in your lifestyle. For example, like a campfire is not something, someone else lights for you and you go and just sit next to it. You would start learning how to do it. Your kids will learn it. And basically those kind of necessary life tools. And again, like I said, most importantly, you'll start being a producer, because as a collective member, you start participating in those critical decision points. For example, every time you think of setting up, let's say, a swimming pool, you start thinking about, where is this water going to come from? How am I going to maintain it? How much would it cost? So you start behaving like it's your farm, and you start thinking of the solution yourself and not just consuming it as a service. Now, this is something I wanted to really put it out there. There is a common misconception every time we start talking about a collective and the price around it. There is a tendency to equate it with a per acre price. So it's never really just the land. What we are talking about includes the cost of the land itself, the cost of a plot of on which your house would be there, the house itself, the cost of all the earthworks that go into creating a food forest, and the natural systems that we're talking about. It also includes the first 3 years of operational expenses. And not only that, we are also passing on the pricing advantage of buying 120 acres in one go and not 1 acre. So if you were to go and buy 2 acres versus 120 acres in the same place, the price would be drastically different. And we are passing on that pricing advantage to our users as well. So how do you participate? There are two options. One, we are calling it a home at the farm, where you basically buy 2 acres of, your holding will be about 2 acres, 500 square yards of it, of which would be part of the housing cluster as a plot of land on which your house would sit. The house itself would be an earth home, which would be exclusively designed by one of the most well-regarded sustainable architects in the country, which is Biome Environment Solutions. Then the pricing for this starts at around 1.48 crores. The size of the house that we are thinking about is 1,200 square feet, which is typically a 2-bedroom house with a veranda and so on. Now, of course, someone can go for a bigger house, whatever fits in that 500 square yards and whatever the land can carry in terms of power generation capacity and all of that. We can discuss that on a case by case basis. Typically, those decisions come 1 year after the collective has started. The second option is called a private estate. We've always noticed that in a collective, there are those who come in for the community and nature, and there are those who come in for the nature and the solitude. So the private estate is typically geared towards those who are looking for a sense of solitude and privacy, where your house is not, the only difference here is your house is not a part of the housing cluster itself. So you would have visual privacy from your neighbors, which means you are occupying a larger footprint of land. So hence what we say is your total holding has to be, you have to account for about 5 acres of land, because that's the extent of resources you would be consuming by being away from a cluster. 2,000 square yards of which would be the plot of land on which your house sits. And we're talking about a 2,000 square feet house, which is roughly, again, a 3-bedroom house with a study and so on. Again, this would be an earth home. Whenever we say earth home, we are talking about building a house with, to the greatest extent possible, with the materials that are found on site. Again, don't think of it as a cob home or something like that. These are modern structures. Biome has built several houses in the city also. In fact, the house I live in, Hyderabad, is an earth home itself. The introductory price for this is 3.14 crores. Again, like I said, it covers all that breakup that we spoke about. So now the question comes, why do you have to do it now as a seed community member? Why not wait till the product actually is created and then participate? Now here what we expect is we are requesting you, we are urging you to sort of bring about a change of mindset from why now to why not now. And the one thing that we have learned is, I wish we would have taken the plunge 5 years ago when we first started discussing about sustainable living between me and Shaurya, instead of postponing it for later. Every time we have thought of doing something later and postponed it for later, we've never actually ended up doing it. So if you have it in your mind that you want to do this someday, there's never a better time than now. And as you all know, we've gone beyond the point of where just sustainability is going to cut it. You have to reverse the direction of climate change now, and creating more food forests is really one of the best ways to combat that. Why do I say that? Because soil is one of the best sequesters of carbon. In fact, this is a statistic that's been published maybe I think 2 years ago. That if all agriculture land on Earth would raise its soil carbon content by 1%, it would sequester all the carbon emissions for the last 50 years. Now, that's the level of impact we are talking about. Yes, we are as Bee Forest, we're not going to change all agricultural land on Earth, but it's all about being the change you want to see, right? So we are trying to create a model that can be replicated everywhere, and that's the whole idea of a collective itself. That is why we are doing so many collectives in different geographies. Our work so far, our first collective was the Pumale Estate. That is how it looks today. It's a 127-acre coffee estate with about 45 members. It's fully subscribed today. There were varying options in it. I won't go into that, but today it's already an operational break-even as well. Then our second collective was the Hyderabad collective. Again, as you see, this was a mix of rock and scrub forest when we first went there. In fact, this actually was told, the villagers told us that this is some place where agriculture cannot happen, has not happened. But we are pretty confident that we can turn this around. Yes, we can't turn those rocks into soil in 5 years, but as you can see, if a shrub can grow, you can build a forest as well. So what are the next steps? One is we have requested you for an earnest money of 5 lakhs. I think Vivek would have walked you all through the process. This is what we call as the first seed money. And once acquisition is complete, you basically confirm with the booking amount as well. That brings us to the end of this talk. Vivek, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Sunit. Thank you very much. And I just want to add a couple of points over here. So as Sunit has shared about Pumale as well as Hyderabad. So as you know, I have discussed with many of you that we are in the business of building the communities, and product is incidental. And here product is also very close to heart. But number one, we believe in that community. So we have the quarterly call also scheduled with our ongoing collectives. In fact, we had last call last night only with the collectives of Pumale members. That is one. And second, like when I visited my Hyderabad collective recently, I was working out of Noida earlier, and I had talked to many of you, Vinay, then I can see all of them. So just to give you an update that in Hyderabad itself, like we are moving the needle almost on the weekly basis, on the daily basis. As we speak, we have created almost 7,000 fruit saplings in Hyderabad in a land piece where even villagers were not so convinced, and they are growing. And I'll keep on sharing the update on that, whoever will be interested. In the Pumale side, Sunit, is it okay for you to show the 3D renovation which we shown to Pumale members yesterday of the housing?
Yeah, we can.
Just to give an idea that what kind of house are going to be developed and what we are doing in Pumale. Yeah.
Yeah, let me just dig it up 1 second.
Yeah, sure. So meanwhile, let me share while Sunit is getting ready with that 3D renovation of the Pumale thing. So in Pumale also, while it was most of the things were there, but based on the permaculture report, like we have engaged one of the global repute expert from Netherlands, and he has been advising us through his team. So whenever we launch any collective, as I discussed with all of you, that we check the land records of last 3 to 5 decades to reduce the possibility of any kind of dispute or controversy in future. Then we then the team of this person from Netherlands, he has team over here. So they take care of all the land, and then they really literally walk on the land and take the samples to get the soil composition, to understand the water contour, to understand the water tables and the contouring, and they understand the bio life which is around. As you agree that when we talk about agriculture, so this whole living organism, not just soil, but the kind of biolife which we have around also matters a lot. And based on that, then we get permaculture advice, and based on that, then we plant saplings. In Hyderabad, as I mentioned, 7,000 saplings of almost 40 varieties we planted, and this is just first step, and more to come.
Yeah.
So same way as we kick off the collective at Mumbai, our permaculture team will kick off their work, and then rest will communicate, will talk, will unfold this collectively with all of you together, while we work as a knowledge partner, implementation partner, getting best of the knowledge and technology from the world. But we consult each one of you and unfold this collective together. Sunit, are you ready with the?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So this piece was from Pumale. Almost similar kind of work will happen based on the ecosystem which location like Mumbai will require. So again, lots of work goes to design the kind of material which will be used, the kind of design, the kind of overall design of the houses which will be done. So all this is done by the experts. We just believe them, we consult you guys, and then we start building. And these drawings, this you see is a real one. So I don't know whether Sunit will have the real pictures right now, which he has shared on the WhatsApp group with the Pumale people. So while presentation can be shown anything, but real proof is in the pudding or when rubber meets the road. So either I can share those photographs which is work in progress, or Sunit, if you have those pictures available right now readily, you can just show a couple of pictures, and then we'll open for question and answer, and I'm enabling chat also. So people can write their questions on the chat as well, and then we'll take one by one all the questions. So do you have pictures on that by chance?
Let me give me 2 seconds. I'll just
okay, sure. So I have enabled the chat. Meanwhile, whatever is coming in your mind, you can put in the chat, and you can unmute yourself. You can ask questions also. Just give us 2 minutes. Post these pictures will open for question and answer.
Yeah.
So these are the pictures which are just going to be on your screen.
What you saw as the Blighton Bungalow was something that was. So here actually we are looking at exploring multiple earth materials, whatever is available there, right? So one of them is laterite, which we are using for our central guest house, which we are also calling the Blighton Bungalow. This is all work in progress right now. This is the Blighton Bungalow we're looking at, and it's being built completely from laterite and exposed architecture. And then let me also show you what we are doing with. We have also renovated an old the erstwhile a writer's bungalow, it used to be called. In estates, a writer is a guy who maintains the accounts. Now this actually we've enlarged it for a better experience. You've seen a rendition of this on the video as well. Right now we are doing the roof, and slowly we'll renovate the rest of the house also. Yeah.
Feel free to text, call any of us, and I'll be happy to answer, address all the queries. Looking forward to have you as a member. Thank you very much. It has been a great evening with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Thanks Vivek for hosting this.
Thank you guys for your time.